This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best all-in-one platform for any of your website building needs. Hey guys, it's Celestia, and I'll be honest, I wasn't planning to make a video about today's topic, since the coverage of the situation it pertains to has already been very widespread. So widespread, in fact, that I'm sure you've already long since heard about it. Artists are leaving Instagram in droves over their new policy changes, and the vast majority of them are naming Cara, a new art-based social media platform, as their destination as a social media replacement on which to share their art. The reason they're leaving Instagram has been so widely discussed already that I don't see the point in dwelling on it for too long. Because if you're here, you probably already know, and if you don't, there are already so many videos explaining the situation, some of which are linked in the description for anyone interested, that you don't need another one from me. I would encourage you to check those out if you're unfamiliar with what happened and want to learn about it in more detail. But to summarize, Meta announced that Instagram would be joining the ranks of pretty much every other platform online at this point and using the content posted on it to train their AI. It's not surprising given how commonplace that's become. And if it were just that, I don't think people would have taken quite as much of an issue with it. I'm by no means suggesting that it's ethically fine, but it's become so unavoidable these days that it's no longer a question of finding a social media platform that doesn't train some kind of AI on what you post by default, but rather a question of finding one that enables you to opt out of that. In the process of recording this video, I just got another email from another platform I use, letting me know that they're going to be training their AI on the stuff that I make there. But they made it very clear how to opt out of that. And the problem is that while most platforms now do that, Meta has boldly chosen not to. When I made a video covering how DeviantArt automatically opted all of its users into having their work used to train its AI, I thought it was too little too late for them to offer users the option to opt out afterwards, that it wasn't enough. I still feel that way, but little did I know that within a year from then, having that option to opt out at all would become a luxury that apparently Meta has chosen not to allow us. No one is happy about the fact that platforms are training on our work, but most of us recognize that if we want to continue using social media and having an online presence, the best we can get from those platforms right now is the easy and straightforward ability to opt out of that, which most do now offer. But not Meta. Unlike the simple opt-out checkbox most other platforms provide, there is no way for users to remove their posts from training data as of writing this. Technically, you can visit their privacy center and find a form through which you can request to opt out of having their AI trained on your posts, but it appears that in order for that request to be completed or even acknowledged, you have to provide demonstrable proof that their AI has knowledge of you by showing a screenshot of a prompt that you entered that resulted in your personal information appearing in a response from a Meta AI. You seemingly have to prove that their AI produced something trained on your posts in particular just to get a chance to plead your case as to why you should be allowed to opt out and have your data removed, which is immensely and seemingly deliberately difficult, if not altogether impossible, for the vast majority of users. Most people who submitted that form anyway have still only heard back that since they weren't able to identify any proof of Meta AI using their personal information, which should not, by the way, be a prerequisite to have it removed in the first place, their request was denied. It's not enough to say, it's my data and I have a right to decide how it's used. You have to provide reasonable cause as to why they should allow you to decide how it's used.
I have cause. It is because I hate him.
And most agree that that's fairly egregious. Simply put, in a world where we now have to accept that the new bare minimum to expect from online platforms is not to not have our posts used to train AI, but simply to be able to opt out from future training once they already have been, Meta has still managed to do less than that by denying us even that option. As a result, it's no surprise that artists are abandoning the platform in droves, seeking any alternative that at the very least allows them that bare minimum that's become the new standard. And the alternative that the vast majority of them are turning to is Cara, a new social media platform for artists specifically, that is effectively the love child of Instagram and ArtStation, which has strict and transparent policies prohibiting the mere posting of AI-generated images, much less the training of AI on anything posted there. Even better, Cara is partnered with Glaze, a cloaking tool that helps prevent AI from stealing the style of any art that's glazed with it, a partnership that allows artists to glaze their work directly on Cara and then post that glazed work afterwards. On paper, it seems like a dream come true, a safe haven for artists that offers them a much-needed reprieve from the duplicitous and exploitative practices of other competing platforms, who seem to aim solely to take advantage of artists rather than empower us. And maybe it is. It certainly has the potential to be, and I do have high hopes. But with so many people online promoting it as the hero we need during these trying times, to the point that they're telling artists everywhere to delete their entire Instagram accounts and switch to Cara instead, I want to look at both that advice and the platform as a whole a little more critically. So in today's video, rather than discussing what Instagram did in any further detail, I'll be going over why I think of telling artists to leave it altogether and switch to Cara is idealistic and misguided advice that, while obviously ideal, is not realistic or doable for all artists, and why Cara is not likely to be a sustainable long-term alternative to Instagram for artists that are serious about building a following or an art career. I'll also be discussing the pros and cons of Cara as a platform independent from the comparison to Instagram, because it has so many strengths and weaknesses alike that I think are worth bringing to the attention of any artist looking to potentially start posting their work there. But first, let me take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace, a longtime partner of the channel. And I say partner in a professional sense, but I've been working with them so passionately and for so long that we may as well be married for real based on the comments I get asking if we got divorced when a video doesn't include a Squarespace shoutout. And good, honestly, I would marry Squarespace, because I sincerely believe that they're the best website building and hosting platform out there, an endorsement that I give with confidence based on years of experience using them to build and host both my personal Duchess Celestia portfolio site and the site for my art studio, Royal Starship Studios. I was able to quickly and easily find the perfect template for each of them by browsing their extensive library of them, which is full of gorgeous, professional-looking, pre-built site templates suited to any type of website you could possibly need. You can build the perfect portfolio to showcase your art, an easy-to-use online store to sell it on, a blog to connect with your community, a landing page for your small business, and so much more, because they have templates that provide the ideal starting point for anything you need. And once you found the right one for you, Squarespace's next-generation editing system, Fluid Engine, will let you change and customize absolutely every single aspect of it to suit your needs, using its smooth, easy-to-use drag-and-drop interface. Want to take it one step further and turn your site into an online store while you're at it? No problem, they've got you covered there too with simple, straightforward e-commerce and print-on-demand integration, letting you sell everything from physical goods to digital content, and letting your customers pay with anything from credit cards to PayPal and Apple Pay, and, in eligible countries, flexible long-term payment alternatives like Afterpay and ClearPay. But that's just the tip of the Squarespace iceberg. The many other handy features they also offer include SEO options designed to get your site to reach as many people as possible, visual design tools that help you build brand recognition with your site, social media account connectivity, and so much more. They've got so many tools available that website building on Squarespace isn't just easy, it's fun. And you can find out yourself by going to squarespace.com/DuchessCelestia, linked in the description, and use code DuchessCelestia for 10% off your first domain purchase. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video, and please go check them out. All that out of the way, let's talk about Cara. Before we get into why I think it's a bad idea to tell all artists to abandon Instagram and switch to it, let's take a closer, more critical look at the platform itself and go over its pros and cons, some of which I feel are being relatively under-discussed in the most prominent coverage of the situation and the platform as a whole. To be clear, it's not that I think Cara is bad, far from it. I've looked into many art-based social media platforms to find viable options to pursue and endorse over the years, and while some were more promising than others, I can't say I've ever found one quite as promising as Cara. There's the obvious win right off the bat that they don't allow AI-generated images on the platform, they don't train AI on your art, and they're even partnered with Glaze so that artists using their site have the option to actively take measures to prevent anyone from training AI on your art. That's honestly monumental compared to any other alternative out there, and has allowed the many artists now flooding the site to breathe a much-needed sigh of relief, knowing that at least there, they can feel safe and secure knowing that human-made art is a priority to be protected, rather than exploited and devalued. I think it's the biggest selling point that's driven so many people there in the first place, honestly, since it's a solution to the problem that they now have with Instagram that's pushing them to leave and find alternatives to it. But even without that primary selling point, Cara doesn't disappoint. It can stand on its own even without its anti-AI policies getting new users' attention. In terms of appearance and functionality, I will admit that it's sorely lacking in originality. When I called it Instagram and ArtStation's love child, I meant it. Although there's definitely a little bit of Twitter in there too. Is Instagram or Twitter the real father? Only Maury Povich can say for sure. Do people still know who that is? I feel like I'm outing myself as ancient a little more with every reference I make. Anyway, the point is, Cara as a platform on a technical level is not really offering anything new. Profiles are basically a carbon copy of Instagram's interface, the homepage is very similar to Twitter's, the Explore page is very reminiscent of DeviantArt's, and the Jobs page is not at all dissimilar to that of ArtStation. It's very clearly a mishmash of other social media platforms, taking the best elements of each and recombining them in its own artist-focused format. But to put it bluntly, so what? Cara doesn't need to reinvent the social media wheel to be valuable. In fact, I personally feel that the fact that it does borrow so heavily from the best elements that people love about other platforms is an asset rather than a detriment. Those elements are the reason that artists use those platforms to share their work in the first place. We know them, they're tried and true, and they work for us. So to have an alternative that includes them all in a way that we're familiar with while also putting artists' needs first and protecting us from AI-related exploitation is a win as far as I'm concerned, even if it isn't necessarily overwhelmingly original looking. I really don't see why it needs to be. If anything, I think the fact that it isn't is a pro rather than a con, especially when you consider consider all of the features that it offers by using the formats borrowed from other familiar platforms. But there are many more pros to discuss. First off, the versatility of profiles is very appealing, offering you the option to view your and other artists' posts in the portfolio-esque format of Instagram or the timeline format of the artist formerly known as Twitter. Please tell me that's not a dated reference too. People still watch Friends, right? Please? Anyway, the versatility doesn't end there either. The timeline view allows people to see everything you post, from art to tweet-like posts to entire blog entries to reposts of other artists, while the portfolio view allows people to see only the art that you choose to highlight there. When posting art to Cara, you're given the option to choose whether or not you want that particular piece to be included in your portfolio view, which is truly the answer to all of my art social media prayers. I always say that your portfolio should only contain your best work, but I also always say that it's important to share as much work as possible to engage your following and keep their interest, which means also posting less polished work, works in progress, sketches, and so on, things that shouldn't be displayed in your portfolio. Cara makes it so you can do both. You can post everything from your messy sketches to your finished pieces on your timeline page to provide your followers with as much content to peruse and engage with as possible, while still making sure that your portfolio page only contains your best work that most clearly demonstrates your skill as an artist. It effectively lets you use Cara as a portfolio to attract clients and a social media platform to engage casually with friends, peers, and your community without either impacting the other. On Instagram, I have to deliberately choose not to post works in progress or messy sketches so as to avoid cluttering the portfolio-esque view of my profile with anything other than the finished work that I want it to highlight, which sacrifices my ability to engage with my followers as often as I'd like. On Twitter, I engage with you guys pretty regularly, with text-based tweets, works in progress, sketches, updates, and a lot more. But as a consequence, it's hard to find just my finished work on the media section of my profile since it's cluttered with all of that too. Cara solves this problem by offering both separately, and I can't emphasize enough how impressed I am with that. It takes the best of both and leaves out the worst. Another selling point is that it borrows from ArtStation's format and allows artists to browse and apply for job listings directly on Cara, capitalizing on the fact that the portfolio page is very effective in a professional setting by allowing artists to make use of it that way via the site directly. I will say that as of writing this, when it comes to finding job listings in the industry, ArtStation is still vastly more lucrative given how many employers view it as the standard and how few actually know about Cara comparatively, much less trust it as a viable option to find artists to hire. But that may very well change in the future as Cara gains trust and recognition within the community, and the format of the site is very conducive to accommodating that. The browse features are another big win to me in two primary ways. First, it's really easy to discover new artists, because the Explore page showcases them with what seems to be a very fair and varied algorithm, highlighting artists whose work is currently performing particularly well and enabling viewers to discover them as a result. If the relative randomness of the Explore page isn't for you, Cara also allows you to browse art by category, like character design, fan art, concept art, storyboards, and so on, so you can narrow down what you're seeing based on your interests. Everything about Cara's browse features is carefully and effectively designed to maximize artists' ability to have their work seen by the widest and most relevant audience possible, which is absolutely fantastic and has already helped me find some really cool new artists to follow within only a few days of using my account. And given that I only promoted my own Cara account once on Twitter and have still gotten significant engagement on my posts anyway, it has ostensibly helped others find me too. The second primary benefit of Cara's browse features is that they aren't exclusively visual. On the sidebar, you can also see the latest discussions and open talk sections, both of which encourage art-related conversations about a wide variety of different, interesting, thought-provoking topics. Because it seems to promote the most popular conversations rather than just ones from people you follow, that means you're encouraged to read and participate in discussions outside of your existing community, effectively widening your existing community and helping you connect with other artists in a way that other platforms might not foster or encourage so efficiently. I've found plenty of incredibly intriguing conversations through these tabs on Cara that have actually been so interesting that they've given me ideas for new video topics. And the whole sidebar sets Cara up to not just showcase cool art, but also showcase conversations specifically about art and enable you to connect with a community of people just as interested in it as you are. Finally, the Cara team is very active within that community themselves, making regular blog posts that share everything from transparent, honest updates on the platform to promising art-related job listings to ongoing art challenges and events, engaging with their community not only as the people that run it, but as active members of it themselves who sincerely care about what goes on within it. It's that honest authenticity that I find particularly refreshing, because you can tell with every blog post and update that the volunteers running Cara care. They're transparent about their priorities, plans, and practices, communicating exactly what they're doing and planning in a way that makes it abundantly clear that they sincerely do value the artists they built the site for, and respect them enough to be genuine and real with them. I don't doubt that that's in no small part because its creator, Jingna, is an artist herself, with a portfolio of photography that's absolutely breathtaking. their team is able to understand artists' needs and tailor the platform to suit them because they share those experiences and empathize with our struggles, and it really does show at every turn. But while there's obviously an abundance of benefits that Cara has to offer, there are still downsides too. And part of the reason I'm making this video is that I feel the current coverage of this whole situation is lacking when it comes to acknowledging and addressing them. First and foremost is that the site itself is in beta, and prior to going viral as a result of the Instagram debacle, it was deliberately not being heavily promoted because it's in beta, and is quite frankly not ready to be heavily promoted. It's run by a very small team of volunteers, and while they clearly care deeply about the platform and making it the best it can possibly be, there's only so much that a small group of people can actually do when it comes to the resources they have at their disposal and the amount of time and effort they're able to devote to it. It's been laggy, buggy, and experienced its fair share of crashes as a result of the sudden influx of new users that it was not prepared for. And while the team has been doing their absolute best to fix issues as they arise, again, by no fault of their own, there's only so much they can do without a bigger team, and more money, frankly. Jingna, in an interview with Wired, expressed that the lack of promotion of Cara was intentional because they're a small group of volunteers and not a startup looking to maximize growth. It wasn't meant to be the team's full-time job, and it's clear that it was intended to grow much more slowly than this new virality has prompted, so that they could keep up with manageable slow growth rather than be overwhelmed by massive, unprecedented growth. The next step on their roadmap to make Cara financially self-sustaining without the need for their team to continue to fund it themselves was to introduce a subscription model. But now they don't have time to, because the influx of new users was so out of the blue and unplanned for that Jingna was left with a $100,000 bill from their service provider just to accommodate its now 900,000 users using the platform. And they're still struggling to find a solution to their financial problems that they couldn't possibly have planned for without some kind of supernatural precognition abilities to see this sudden virality coming. To be clear, my presenting this as a downside is not intended as a criticism of Cara. Their team is doing their best, and they simply were not prepared for their site to be the subject of so much publicity and traffic all at once when they specifically tried not to promote it until they had worked out all of their development plans and bug fixes beforehand. It's not their fault that they didn't get the chance to before they were hit with this huge growth, and it's not their fault that they're scrambling to keep up with it, but it is a downside, even if no one is really to blame for it. This site is in beta, it's in early development, and it's not ready to be the new Instagram. It doesn't have the funding or the resources to be yet. I sincerely hope that they're able to figure out a way to resolve the financial and technical problems resulted from the unprecedentedly massive growth, but even if they do, they still need time and patience and potentially even investors and financial support if they want to come out of beta as a social media platform on the level of an Instagram competitor. This is something Jingna openly acknowledges with more much appreciated honesty and transparency in her July 3rd post on Cara, saying, "I've been feeling a bit down/depressed/stressed these last few days, so it's super nice to see people still going strong and posting on Cara even as we come down from the unexpected traffic due to going viral. While the slowing of traffic is expected for the team, users who are unfamiliar with what we were doing before may not understand. For over a year, we have not been actively promoting Cara, nor are we now looking to sustain high traffic. Our current priority is focused on building missing features, admin tools, and fixing things to get to a point of being a little more polished and less buggy. So for those who are sticking around despite the many challenges of using our little app and website, thank you for giving us a chance, and for filing bug reports to help make things better. As before, we will continue to lay low and let people find Cara organically until we feel more ready to promote. If you want to invite friends, by all means, but please set up their expectations to know that the site will be buggy in many places. There's an immense amount of work that we need to do in the background, and as the team is all volunteers, we don't push people to contribute when they're busy. This means we're all a little bit limited in how quickly we can push out fixes and things. I hope that eventually we could afford to hire at least some full-time engineers and designers who can work on Cara every day to help me. But right now, I'm still handling our billing/cost estimates and negotiating with vendors, so please be patient and continue to report bugs if you notice them, so we can be aware of what's broken and make things better. Our biggest priority and challenges are dealing with spam, safety, and moderation at the moment. We are doing all we can to come up with both short-term and long-term solutions. Thank you for your support and patience. So with all of that in mind, if you're considering starting a Cara account because you think it's an awesome new platform for artists with a lot of potential for the future, sweet. That's great, and you're right to. That's why I made an account, aside from the desire to get a first-hand experience with it to inform this video's analysis of it. But if you're starting an account because you're expecting a platform that is already developed and sustainable enough to be the next Instagram for artists, you are likely to be disappointed. It isn't there yet, and the team is very open about the fact that it has a long way to go before it is, and you're just gonna need to be patient while they work to get it there, something that they anticipate will likely take a while. The other downside is one that the beginning of Jingna's post highlights. It's super nice to see people still going strong and posting on Cara even as we come down from the unexpected traffic due to going viral. Cara is trending right now because the backlash Instagram is facing is viral and everyone is talking talking about it. But whether it should or not, morally speaking, that backlash will die down. Eventually, no matter how much we want Instagram to be held accountable long-term for their actions in terms of their AI-related policies, the outrage that we're directing at them now will die down. People will stop talking about it, and the community will move on to the next crisis that we're facing because there seems to be no shortage of them. Some artists may commit to their decision to leave Instagram forever in favor of Cara, but many others may find themselves returning to the former for a multitude of possible reasons, leaving their Cara accounts inactive and forgotten. Jingna herself has already acknowledged in that statement that while Cara is still going strong, it's now coming down from the unexpected traffic resulting from their sudden virality. People are already moving on to the next drama, and the sudden influx of new artists joining the platform is dwindling as a result, something that will likely continue indefinitely and progressively more as time passes, because Cara is, to be blunt, not capitalizing on their moment in the spotlight in the slightest. And I don't mean that critically. They're deliberately deciding not to because they know their team's limits. They know they're not ready for more growth, and it honestly sounds like they're glad that the number of new users is dwindling as the trending topic passes so that they can catch up with what must be an intensely overwhelming number of new items on their development roadmap. Hell, they're not even actively prioritizing the development of new features based on that post, with their focus instead being on polishing existing features, working out bugs, building missing features, and effectively playing catch-up after what I imagine to have been a borderline insurmountable amount of work was shoved onto them. They don't want high traffic, so of course they're not trying to capitalize on this virality. While a startup social media platform with adequate financial backing may jump at the opportunity to bolster this newfound interest in the site with hardcore marketing campaigns, new features being announced, and efforts being made to both maintain their new traffic and drive more, that's not what Cara is. They're a small team of volunteers, and they're self-aware enough to know that they don't have the resources to capitalize on this virality right now. And that's a very, very good thing for them. It's an asset, and it's reassuring, because it suggests that they won't overwork their team or overestimate their capabilities and end up either going broke or delivering subpar updates and features. They're not gonna Icarus this and fly too close to the sun, as tempting as I'm sure it might be to use this virality to drive more growth. It is kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, potentially. As a result, the traffic to Cara is dwindling as interest in the Instagram situation dwindles, and they want it to so that they can return to more sustainable numbers. That self-awareness is an upside in that regard, building confidence in those who understand their situation that they won't push themselves beyond their means and lose what they've already built as a result. But it's a downside for people expecting to get high engagement on the platform consistently and indefinitely. The creators of the site don't want high traffic right now, so they're not going to use this chance to promote themselves. And that means that the number of people using the platform will eventually and consistently trend downwards rather than upwards. The number of likes that your work will get there is not on an upward trajectory, and while that's not a bad thing for the platform, it is a bad thing for any artist approaching the platform with the expectation that they'll be able to maintain engagement similar to what they're getting on Instagram. Cara's traffic will go down, users will go back to Instagram, and that's what Cara needs right now, even if it comes at the expense of the potential engagement of the individual artists using it. Back when Elon Musk bought Twitter and sentenced the platform to the slow death or at least deterioration that we're currently witnessing, I made a video discussing why many artists were choosing to leave the platform in favor of Tumblr, which was, at the time, the most promising alternative within the art community. In that video, I posited that the most likely outcome was that despite the outrage towards Twitter, and the many artists abandoning the platform in favor of Tumblr and other alternatives, the vast majority of the art community would end up either staying on Twitter anyway, or coming back eventually after seeing that engagement elsewhere simply wasn't comparable, which was kind of exactly what happened for the most part. Some artists did leave Twitter forever, but most didn't, to our own chagrin, because no other platform could provide us with the potential engagement that it could, and the existing art communities that were already established there weren't moving, so the individual artists within them weren't either. Many artists, however, as a result of seeking a potential alternative to Twitter, did turn to Tumblr and find that while it may not have worked as an alternative, it did work for them as a platform to use in addition to Twitter, finding value in that additional community alongside the ones that they remained a part of on Twitter. I feel like this situation is likely to turn out very similarly. While most of us really want to leave Instagram and protest their awful new policies, it's unlikely that most of us will be able to for a multitude of reasons that I'll address more in a minute here. What I do see as very likely is not that we'll all move to Cara, abandon Instagram, and it'll become the new artist hub that puts Meta out of business, but that in the process of seeking Instagram alternatives, artists will find Cara, see how great it is, and decide to use it alongside Instagram as an additional platform rather than an alternative platform. And based on Cara's goals, I think that probably suits everyone best. It's what I'll be doing at least, and what I would recommend to anyone who isn't ready or able to leave Instagram altogether. And all of this brings me to my final point. I don't think Cara is the godsend new Instagram alternative that most people covering the situation are selling it as. It's amazing and wonderful, and I sincerely clearly cannot wait to see where it goes in the future. But Cara's own team doesn't want it to be an Instagram alternative yet. It's not ready to be. And telling a bunch of artists to leave a platform that provides them with a chance to reach one of the biggest audiences of potential followers and clients out there in favor of a platform that will provide them with limited engagement that is likely and even planned to dwindle over time, in my opinion, is a little irresponsible, albeit well-intentioned. I don't agree with what Instagram is doing in the slightest. I think it's morally reprehensible, and I don't want to keep using it and allowing them to effectively get away with it. I want to delete my account and move somewhere better. I want to stop letting big companies exploit small artists. But even though Instagram is my smallest platform, it still drives so much traffic to my channel, my site, and my store that if I deleted it, I would lose business, I would lose engagement, and I would lose the potential to reach the massive number of users still active on it. And I can't make that sacrifice when this is my full-time job. And many artists are in the same or at least similar positions, having invested years and years building their following there, and subsequently relying on Instagram to facilitate their livelihood and connect them with their communities and clients alike. To tell them to throw that away based on the false assumption that Cara can provide them with the same numbers and resources is just not feasible for a lot of artists, as much as we want it to be. I'm not saying let Instagram get away with it or do nothing. If you choose to stay, you can still glaze the work that you post there to protect it as best you can from Meta's AI training, or use Glaze's sister tool, Nightshade, to take it one step further and try to poison that AI's dataset, something that I'll link more information on in the description. We can bring attention to it, boost media coverage of it, and try to fight for policy changes and better AI legislation so that in the future, we have legal protection from this type of exploitation. And if nothing else, we can support both artists who want to take a stand and delete their accounts, and those who don't feel they have that luxury and can't take that kind of blow to their art careers, even if they want to. Because when it comes to this, there is no right decision for everyone. Artists are struggling enough right now as it is. To tell those of them trying to make a career out of art that they need to leave one of the biggest platforms available for them to build it on in favor of one that does not offer the same long-term sustainability is, in my opinion, naive, even if it is recommended with nothing but the best intentions. I don't think anyone telling artists to leave Instagram altogether for Cara is being deliberately ignorant or malicious. I just think the advice itself is kind of short-sighted and unrealistic. It's ideal, certainly. We all want Cara to be the answer to this problem, and I think most of us want Cara to be the safe, ethical alternative that we need and quite frankly deserve. But it's not yet, and I don't think it will be for a long time. Cara is not the new Instagram for artists, and its own developers don't want it to be because they have the self-awareness to recognize that it isn't ready to be. It's also worth mentioning that Cara is by artists for artists, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing. On one hand, that means that the whole site is tailored to highlight art and support artists, with discussions centered around art and tools designed to suit artists' needs. This is a platform specifically for artists, which is wonderful, but it also means that the vast majority of people using the platform are artists, and more pertinently, are just artists. On Instagram, your art has the potential to reach everyone, artist or not, because it's not just artists using Instagram, it's everyone. Most people online have an Instagram account, regardless of whether or not they're artists or art lovers. So your art has unlimited potential reach because the platform is a welcoming one to everyone, at least on the surface, policies notwithstanding. Being an artist or even liking art is not a prerequisite to be motivated to make an account on Instagram, but it kind of is on Cara. For the most part, your reach there will be limited to other artists, because no one else really has a reason to join. On Instagram, your art has the potential to be promoted to clients and possible followers from all walks of life, even those who might not have been looking for art but are pleased to have found it anyway, and choose to support you as a result. On Cara, your art has the potential to reach largely only other artists, without the potential to reach anyone outside of that community. You're isolated in the art community bubble, essentially. That's not to say it's a bad thing to have your work promoted to your peers within the art community, since artists are generally very supportive of each other and foster a wonderful environment of mutual encouragement. But it is limiting if you're trying to build a career, because it's incredibly difficult to get enough clients to sustain you financially if your only potential clients and followers are fellow artists. Imagine you meet a stranger and get to talking, you tell them you're an artist, and they ask where they can find your work and follow you. If you show them your Instagram, they're likely to already have an account, and you're likely to get a new follower who likes your work and might potentially buy it or at least support you. If you show them your Cara account, they likely won't have ever heard of it before, much less already have an existing account to follow you from, and it's overwhelmingly unlikely that they'll make one just to support you when they have no other reason to be on the platform. So if that's the only social media you have, it will hold you back. It limits your ability to reach new audiences organically just by posting on a platform with such a wide variety of users, and it limits your ability to connect with people who like your work but aren't artists themselves, and therefore have no reason to make accounts on a solely art-based platform. It's not something that's unique to Cara, and not a criticism of it by any means. It's a potential hurdle for any art-based social media site, which is why most artists use see, at least these days, don't use sites like DeviantArt, ArtStation, or even Newgrounds as their sole platform, but rather as supplementary platforms to others. In conclusion, my advice is simply to weigh your options carefully if you're an artist deciding whether or not to leave Instagram for Cara. Do what's right for you, and don't let anyone else tell you what the right call is, no matter how much pressure online spaces might currently be putting on you to leave, even if it's to the detriment of your own career and well-being. I do sincerely recommend trying out Cara though, regardless of that decision. It may not be an alternative to Instagram, but it's a fantastic platform with nothing but potential for even more growth and improvement in the future. And it's being developed by wonderful people with artists' best interests in mind that deserve our support. And with that in mind, I've linked Cara's Buy Me a Coffee page in the description, and I would encourage anyone that can to donate. They're dealing with so much financial stress as a result of this whole situation, and I'm sure that even the smallest donations in support of them on there will help. And not only that, you'll be investing in the future of what might be one of the most promising art-based social media platforms out there right now. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Special thank you as always to channel members Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Zelda Deverak42, Abyss Reborn, Haruki Kyle, King Good James, Cutie Sailor Lovely, Inside Chaos, CP Lil Thing, and Art of Amethyst Fable, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Blue Swanson, Cora Fear, Jamisha Walker, Alengshi, Kim Yen, Crazy Asar, Gentong, Grayson Xavier, MG, Blah Mage, TC Pratt, Finn, Grim Spectre, Celine Merriman, Ash, Eldritchia, The Stray Dog, Ulura, Greg Noble, Decagon, Jenny Chan, Captain Reku, Ryan M. Williams, Catbus, Alec Reinakainen, Mac, Lucy Amajiki, Selena Bibi, Cry Day, Totally Shogun, Insomniac Sleep Schedule, Lola the Pinky, Wing Wong, and Smiley Boy. And I'll see you in the next one.